Imagine a world where every decision you make is driven by the need for approval. Think about the overwhelming pressure to conform, to be liked, to fit in at all costs. Now ask yourself, what would happen if you were freed from this prison of people-pleasing? Could the courage to be disliked actually be the key to unlocking your greatest potential? Today we will explore how the fear of rejection, as warned by great thinkers throughout history, has become a modern form of self-imposed bondage. We will examine timeless wisdom and contemporary psychology to reveal how our desperate desire for validation might be quietly suffocating our authentic selves and greatest contributions. By the end of this video, we will share the most profound insight, a perspective that could transform the way you approach every relationship and challenge in your life. Let us embark on this journey into understanding the hidden power of rejection and how we can reclaim our authentic voice in a world determined to make us silent conformists. Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, in their powerful book, The Courage to be Disliked, present a challenging idea based on Adlerian psychology. They suggest that true freedom comes not from being liked by everyone, but from being willing to be misunderstood and even rejected. In their view, people who constantly seek approval are trapped in a prison they built themselves, always dancing to the tune of others' expectations. Look at our modern world, where social media likes have become the new measure of our worth. From the desperate chase for followers to the fear of being cancelled, aren't we all being held hostage by what others think of us? Psychologists like Dr. Brené Brown, famous for her research on vulnerability and shame, warns that while human connection is essential, the unhealthy need for approval destroys authentic relationships and creative expression. Take a moment to think. How often do you hide your true thoughts because you're afraid people won't like them? How many choices do you make not because they match your values, but because you're worried about what others will think? The pursuit of everyone's approval comes with a heavy psychological cost that modern psychology calls approval addiction. This idea reveals that no matter how much validation we receive, we quickly get used to it and need more and more to maintain our sense of worth. Whether it's the excitement of social media likes, praise from coworkers, or acceptance from family, the good feeling fades quickly, and the hunger for more begins. According to Adlerian psychology, we become prisoners to other people's judgments, constantly chasing an acceptance that we can never fully satisfy. This isn't just theory. Research shows a troubling link between approval-seeking behaviors and poor mental health. A recent study found that being too concerned with others' opinions is strongly connected to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and reduced creativity. What's even more concerning is how this cycle feeds itself. The more disconnected we become from our authentic selves, the more we seek external validation, which only makes us feel more empty inside. What is the real cost of this endless pursuit of approval? Philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his essay Self-Reliance, argued that true fulfillment comes not from fitting in but from having the courage to trust your own voice. He believed that when people sacrifice their true beliefs for social acceptance, they give up their greatest gift to humanity. Ask yourself, are you living according to your own values? Or have you unknowingly allowed the fear of rejection to control your choices? This question isn't just philosophical, it's deeply practical. Every day we face decisions. Should we speak our truth or say what people want to hear? Should we follow our genuine interests or follow the crowd? These small moments, which might seem unimportant, add up to create the framework of our lives. Imagine a marketplace where the currency is conformity. In this world, the most valuable thing isn't originality or truth, it's fitting in. Every time you hide your authentic voice to gain acceptance, you're not just making a personal compromise, you're participating in a system designed to maintain the status quo. Welcome to the approval economy, a system that thrives on your fear of rejection and keeps you locked in an endless cycle of self-censorship. To understand how deeply this system controls us, we need to look at how it exploits our biology. Neuroscientist Dr. Matthew Lieberman, an expert in social pain research, has revealed that our brains process social rejection in the same regions that process physical pain. This explains why criticism or exclusion can feel as threatening as physical danger. When we receive social acceptance, our brain releases oxytocin and other chemicals that create feelings of safety and connection. This biological response creates a powerful feedback loop that rewards conformity and punishes anyone who steps out of line. Here's the catch. While our biology makes us sensitive to rejection, our modern hyperconnected world makes this vulnerability much worse. We now live in what psychologists call a social evaluative environment, where our words, choices, and even silence are constantly judged by an invisible audience. This isn't just happening in your imagination, it's built into the platforms and institutions that shape our daily lives. Think about how this shows up in your daily experience. Have you ever held back a genuine thought in a meeting? Deleted a social media post that expressed your true feelings? Changed your appearance or interests to avoid criticism? These aren't coincidences. They're the predictable results of living in a system designed to reward fitting in and punish authenticity. Now let's connect this to Kishimi and Koga's central argument. The courage to be disliked isn't just a personal philosophy, it's a radical act of resistance against a system that profits from your fear. When you silence your voice to avoid disapproval, you aren't just compromising your integrity, you're surrendering your power to contribute something unique to the world. But why does this matter so much? Because the fear of rejection, when left unchecked, doesn't just rob us of our voice, it steals our potential. When we prioritize approval over authenticity, we sacrifice the opportunity to create, innovate, and lead. Author Elizabeth Gilbert, in her book Big Magic, argues that the greatest creative contributions throughout history came from those willing to risk disapproval for the sake of truth and originality. She suggests that creativity itself requires a willingness to be misunderstood, sometimes for years or even generations. Consider this: how many of your unique perspectives remain unshared? How often do you make yourself smaller to avoid outshining others? These questions aren't meant to make you feel bad but to wake you up. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward reclaiming your authentic voice. Now let's go deeper into the philosophical and life consequences of living driven by the fear of rejection. If we've learned anything from thinkers like Kishimi, Koga, and Adler, it's this: excessive concern with others' opinions doesn't just limit individuals, it reshapes entire societies. Consider the concept of groupthink, a term created by social psychologist Irving Janis to describe how groups make bad decisions when the desire for harmony overrides critical thinking. History is filled with disasters, from failed military operations to space shuttle accidents, where smart people stayed silent rather than risk disapproval by challenging the group opinion. This is exactly what happens when the fear of rejection becomes normal within a culture. Look at our world today. Every day we are bombarded by pressure to conform, through social media algorithms that reward agreeable content, workplace cultures that punish disagreement, and social circles that subtly enforce unwritten rules. While these forces make life more comfortable in the short term, they also make us less capable of meaningful contribution and ethical courage. But here's the hidden danger. This conformity doesn't feel like cowardice, it feels like wisdom. It feels like maturity and social intelligence. That's what makes it so dangerous. As philosopher Hannah Arendt wrote in her analysis of totalitarianism, the most effective form of control is one that citizens impose upon themselves in the name of belonging. Think about how this applies to your life. How many of your beliefs have you actually examined, and how many have you absorbed to maintain social harmony? When was the last time you voiced an unpopular opinion because you believed it was true, rather than staying silent for the sake of peace? This is not just a personal issue. The consequences of approval addiction spread outward, affecting innovation, justice, and even democracy itself. Philosopher John Stuart Mill described this phenomenon in On Liberty, arguing that truth emerges from the free competition of ideas. When people fear social penalties for expressing unconventional thoughts, society loses access to perspectives that might contain partial or complete truths. Let's make this practical. Imagine two paths. One is smooth, well-traveled, and comfortable. It requires little courage but offers the comfort of belonging. The other is rugged, lonely at times, and challenging. It demands courage and invites criticism, but it leads to authenticity, integrity, and the possibility of meaningful contribution. Which path are you walking right now? Modern psychology supports these philosophical insights. Studies show that people who prioritize internal values such as authenticity, integrity, and personal growth report higher levels of psychological well-being than those driven primarily by external validation. Yet our culture constantly pushes us toward the latter. Why? Because a society built on conformity depends on your fear of standing out. This is why marketers don't just sell products, they sell belonging. They make you believe that acceptance is always just one purchase, one opinion, or one lifestyle choice away. But here's the truth. No amount of external validation can substitute for the internal alignment that comes from living according to your own values. Let us now confront the heart of the matter. How do we reclaim our authentic voice in a world that punishes nonconformity? The answer lies in understanding a profound truth. Real freedom comes not from being liked by everyone, but from the courage to be disliked by those who demand your silence or compliance. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote about the sacred no, the ability to reject external demands that conflict with one's deepest values. This insight is the cornerstone of liberation. When we anchor our self-worth not in others' approval but in our fidelity to truth and authentic expression, the fear of rejection loses its grip on us. Our no to conformity becomes a yes to our highest potential. Consider the lives of those who have changed the world. Galileo defending the sun-centered model of the solar system despite religious persecution. Rosa Parks refusing to surrender her bus seat despite social consequences. Or Malala Yousafzai advocating for girls' education despite violent threats. Their greatness wasn't born from seeking approval but from embracing disapproval in service of something larger than themselves. They remind us that history's most significant contributions often begin with the courage to be misunderstood, criticized, and even rejected. But how do we develop this courage in a world that makes rejection so painful? Viktor Frankl offers a path forward. In his work, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl describes how finding purpose creates a resilience that transcends social acceptance. When we connect our actions to meaningful values, the sting of rejection diminishes against the satisfaction of living with integrity. Start by asking yourself these questions. What truth am I afraid to speak? What action am I avoiding for fear of disapproval? If I knew I would be supported regardless of the outcome, what would I attempt? These are not easy questions, but they are transformative. By seeking answers, you take the first steps toward breaking free from approval addiction and stepping into authentic self-expression. Now let's address the most important insight, the revelation that ties everything together. The courage to be disliked is ultimately not about indifference to others, but about a deeper commitment to offering your genuine gifts to the world. True connection, as psychologist Carl Rogers believed, comes not from presenting a pleasing false self but from the authentic encounter between real selves, with all their beautiful imperfections. But to live such a life, we must develop psychological resilience, the ability to withstand criticism without being destroyed by it. This resilience comes from what psychologists call differentiation, maintaining a clear sense of self while remaining connected to others. As author David Richo puts it, the mark of a mature person is the ability to be both independent and connected at the same time. To build this resilience, start by practicing small acts of authenticity. Express an unpopular opinion in a respectful way. Pursue an interest that others might find strange. Set a boundary that might disappoint someone. These small acts of courage may seem insignificant, but they create a ripple effect, gradually reshaping your relationship with approval and rejection. Here's another powerful practice. Learn to tell the difference between useful feedback and simple rejection. Not all criticism is rejection, and not all rejection is valid criticism. Learn to welcome feedback that helps you grow while developing the discernment to recognize when others' disapproval is more about their limitations than your worth. Think about this. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen your capacity for meaningful contribution. Every time you resist the pull of conformity, you reclaim a piece of your unique voice. These moments of courage, though sometimes painful, are acts of liberation against a world that profits from your fear. As we conclude, let us return to the central wisdom of the courage to be disliked. Kishimi and Koga remind us that we cannot control whether others like or approve of us. We can only control whether we live with integrity. They believe in humanity's capacity for freedom not from rejection, but from the fear of rejection that keeps us small. You have the power to break free by choosing authenticity over approval, courage over conformity, and contribution over comfort. You can reclaim your voice and live a life of true impact. So what will you choose? Will you continue to silence yourself for the sake of temporary harmony, or will you embrace the beautiful risk of being fully seen and potentially rejected? The choice is yours, and remember, this journey isn't just about improving your life. It's about offering your unique gifts to a world that desperately needs authentic voices. This is your moment to awaken. The chains of approval addiction are invisible, but they can be broken. The path of authenticity is difficult, but it leads to contribution that matters. Choose courage and step boldly into the life you were meant to live.